The purpose of this video is to show you my technique for adding a screen capture, especially putting some kind of markup on a screen capture to emails, handouts, whatever. It's very basic, my technique. It's easy, it's simple, you already have all the tools you need. But don't laugh, because any graphic artist or probably anybody worth their salt out there would probably say, why don't you use Photoshop or, I don't know, other tools? But I'm just kind of basic, and this gets me where I'm going. So I'm going to share my technique with you. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some built-in Microsoft stuff that will just make your life easier. So I'm in Microsoft Word. Let me start there. I'm going to open a blank document. I have the shortcut up here to that. Blank document in Word, right? So let's say I go over to my web browser and I happen to have my course open here, and I want to show the students something. I want to show them that if they click on assessment, they've got this menu here, right? Well, one really easy, quick way to capture your entire screen is using your keyboard, a button on your keyboard. If you look down at your keyboard, oftentimes this key is in the upper right corner somewhere, and it's the print screen button, and it's labeled PRT. For print, PRT SCR, print screen. And whatever you have to do to press that function on your keyboard, okay, I just hit it. You didn't see anything, but it just copied the entire screen to my quote-unquote clipboard, that imaginary clipboard thing. Now if I come over to Word and I paste, there's the whole screen, right? Now, in the old days, what I might do is a lot of manipulation to try to reduce this, because remember, all I want to show the students is this menu thing right here. So capturing the whole screen in this particular case, not always helpful. Sometimes very helpful if you're trying to report an error or something like that. I'm going to delete that. So let's try again. Now, I just visited this web page and I've got this displayed the way that I want it, and I am going directly back to the blank Word document. If I go to Insert, you should find in your illustration insert ribbon illustrations group a little bitty button here that says Screenshot. And when you click on Screenshot, you will have the option of adding the entire window, the entire screen of anything that you have open. But I don't want to do that. Instead, I just simply want a screen clipping. So I click on screen clipping. The screen opens to the very last thing I viewed. Now, if you were just checking email, that's what's going to show up. And if you do, you just hit escape to get out of this. Okay, you're like, this is not what I want, escape. But while I'm in this screen clipping mode, I drag over, make kind of a rectangle or a diagonal over what I want selected. That's all I wanted right there. And so now I have it. Very cool, right? Now, you can also pretty things like this up, and I'll show you that in a minute. But what you also wanted to know is, like, what if my intention here was to tell the students, here's how you check your grades, you go to assessment, and then you want them to very clearly see grades. This is where you're going to laugh, okay? In Windows, down here where it says type here to search, if you click there, type MS Paint. This has been a free tool provided with Windows since the dawn of time. There is also a newer version of this that often comes with Windows. It's called Paint 3D, that gives you even more functionality. For my purposes, Paint, really basic, kind of a children's tool, and that's why it works for me. Okay, so I'm going to open Paint. And this is my paint surface, and you can adjust this, although it does automatically adjust as needed. But I'll just make myself a little place here. And I'm going to go back to Word, and here's that screen capture that I did, the little clip. Right click, how about copy? And then I'll go to Paint, and I'll paste. And when you first paste it, it's selected. You can move it to wherever you want to move it. And There are all kinds of shapes that I like to use. Sometimes I just draw a line, but there are arrows in here as well. So I might use an arrow, and I'm going to draw an arrow, and I want it to be red. And then I'm going to use the paint bucket because that allows me to fill in with that red color. Then I'm going to go up here to select because I'm going to cut this and move it around. But I notice as I move it around, it's, I grabbed a really big, place of it and it's covering stuff up. And I would instead prefer that that has a transparent background. So now when I move it in there, it's more transparent and it provides a very nice uh, point to that. And then what you can do is you actually can do a couple things. You can, if you want, just go ahead and now select that and copy and go back to Word, and maybe I'll just, oops, I'm sorry. And there it goes, and paste. And the cool thing about this, I'll tell you something I really like about this is now that I have pasted that arrow in there, it will not move around. And I'll tell you a comparison. What you can do is while you're in Word, you can use some of the tools in Word. Like here's an arrow tool, and I can, make in essence that same, oops, let me go to my, hello, computer running very slow. Anyway, you get the gist here. You can use the, what is taking so, there we go. Um, I could go in and do some drawing things here to make an arrow. The problem is sometimes as things wrap around, see, like all I'm doing right now is I just added a couple, paragraphs up at the top, and now my arrow's not pointing to the correct spot anymore. And that just becomes like a constant maintenance issue that you have to work with. If you use something like Paint and you really embed that, you make it part of the graphic. Now, the problem here is that later on, if you wish that that arrow wasn't here, you might have to go back, get your image, and start all over again, because maybe now you're saying, I didn't want that. Instead, I wanted to have an arrow. I wanted a bigger arrow. I wanted something different, or instead I wanted to point to discussions. And so you learn to plan so that you keep, the base copy of your shape. Like I said, very, very simple, very, very basic. But nevertheless, there it is. And then let's say that you're in Word. You can go in and you can format it a little bit so that it's more obvious that this is a graphic, and that it's a cutout of a graphic when you make it stand out a little bit with a picture tool format, and use some kind of shading or some kind of decoration on the image there to to make it highlight. Now you can do that just as I showed you with remember, it was insert and then the screenshot tool, and then put it into Microsoft Paint, and there's just all kinds of things that you can do to uh, to enhance that image. If you want to add text, that's this A tool here, and you can say something like, uh, let me do this. I'll type in this text box and I'll say, how about this? The three most important tools are discussions, I'm just making this up, assignments, and grades, right? And maybe now I want to put kind of a bracket there. Okay, let me show you how I cheat to do a bracket. Here's a square, and I'm going to draw a square, or maybe more of a rectangle, but I just want the bracket, so I'm just going to cut off this part of it here and bring it over here. So that is a cheap bracket. you know, something like that. If I wanted instead the other side, and I'm really just playing here, if I wanted to make it stand out a little bit more, I could do that. So very simple, simple tools, you know, and you see how I'm exploiting them. But that's all that it takes. And I encourage you, you know, to explore this. The eyedropper is really cool. Just a couple extra things, because if there is some color that you are really trying to replicate, that's what the eyedropper does. So it just sucked up the color from that. So when I take the eyedropper, sometimes you're trying to match something, and it sucks up the color. Okay, so you know, eraser, self-explanatory, all these different types of things. Also down at the lower corner, I find this very handy. Sometimes when you're trying to do some detail work, you can really zoom in on it so that you can manipulate it, that kind of thing. But anyway, that is how I do it. And again, how did I get this? And sometimes you need to paste and manipulate something and paste again. So you can open multiple copies of MS Paint, and that's just Paint. It's included free. You don't have to ask for it or have it installed or anything like that. It's already on your Windows computer. So MS Paint. I guess if you did have trouble finding MS Paint, which is the most simple version, then you could just type Paint, and then you would get Paint 3D. Also free. It's the upgraded, you know, tool that Windows provides. And if you want to learn something, this one is, I need to get into it. I'm just normally kind of fast and furious, and so I open Paint because I'm just really looking to do something extraordinarily simple. My computer is running very slow, so I'm going to pause this while it opens. Oops. Okay, so it loaded. Here's my welcome screen. I'm just going to say new. And I mean, this is, again, this is free. Paint 3D, it's part of Microsoft, the operating system. It's an application that they provide free with that operating system. So, I mean, there's tons of stuff here. I mean, this is pretty fancy. People normally don't do this because they just don't know about it. They say, oh, I need to edit a graphic, and the immediate thought is I've got to purchase Photoshop. This is free, and it comes on the computer. So Paint 3D or the long and old simple Paint. So those are some of your options. Final thing, just as I wrap up, if you go into email, now I use Outlook installed on my computer, so I'm using the application Outlook, not the web browser-based Outlook. You have those exact same tools here. So, you know, all the different things, and here's insert and screenshot. And again, that would allow me to do a screen clipping, for example. And then finally, what I know of people who are watching this are saying, oh, isn't this the same as Snippet, the snipping tool? And yes, absolutely. The snipping tool will allow you to get just that piece, there it is, just that piece of information that you need. Okay, well, okay, let's just say we needed that. Okay, so it allows you to get just that piece of information that you need. So that's great and all. Goodness, I'm sorry, that was loud. I just find that if I'm sending an email or if I'm working on a Word document and I already know that's what I'm going to do, that I just go ahead and use the screenshot tool to snip what I need, and then I put it into Paint because it's easy, and I mark it up the way that I want to, and that's it. So I hope that helps, and this video is a little longer than I thought, so my apologies for that, but I hope it was helpful.